You walk down to the water in Tulum, the one you saw in 100 photos, that impossible turquoise, the palm leaning just so, and about 10 feet from the sand the smell hits you first. Not salt, rotten eggs. There's a brown wall of seaweed piled 3 feet deep between you and the sea, and it's been cooking in the sun since dawn, and the guy raking it is wearing a mask, and you're standing there in your swimsuit doing quiet math on what you paid to be here. That's the thing nobody screenshots. I'll be straight with you. A lot of what gets sold as paradise on the Mexican coast stopped being paradise a while ago, and the postcard kept selling anyway, because the postcard doesn't rot. Somewhere between the photo you booked and the beach you're standing on, a whole machine went to work. The tourism boards, the all-inclusive chains, the influencers paid in free nights, the developers who put up a 5-story tower and left the town without water. And the version they sell you and the version under your feet quietly stopped being the same place. I've crossed a few dozen borders and stood on a lot of beaches that used to be one thing and are now a performance of that thing. Mexico's got a whole coastline of them right now. Some of these places genuinely fell apart. Some of them are just being sold to you at 4 times what they're worth. And a couple of them, I'll be honest, aren't nearly as dead or nearly as dangerous as you've been told. And I'll tell you which ones, because honest is more useful to you than scary. So here's 15 Mexican resort towns that are, one way or another, worthless in 2026. Worthless as in not worth your money, not worth your week, not worth the version of them that's left. And stay with me to the end, because the last name on this list isn't a ruined place at all. It's the escape people are running to right now, and it's already got the machine parked out front, engine running. That one tells you everything. Let me show you what's actually going on here. Because it's the same story wearing 15 different hats. Every one of these towns is running the same trick on you, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. There's the brochure, the turquoise, the swim-up bar, the drone shot at golden hour. And then there's the shoreline, the actual ground you stand on, with its real price, its real crowd, its real water problem, its real reason for being the way it is. The whole game is keeping those two things from meeting in your head until after you've paid. And here's the honest frame most of these get wrong, in both directions. Some places really did hollow out from a storm, a cartel war, or greed with no brakes. But a lot of the danger you hear about Mexico is a blanket travel advisory painting an entire state one color, when the real risk to a tourist is close to zero, and the real damage is being done to the locals whose town got labeled a no-go zone. I'm going to keep pulling those two apart the whole way down, because that's the difference between a scary headline and a useful one. The map you were handed and the place that's actually there. Let's go find the gap. Number 1, and you already met it, Tulum. 10 years ago, this was a barefoot backpacker town. 20-room hotels, generators, jungle, Maya ruins on a cliff over the water. Then the pandemic hit, the world wanted somewhere open with no rules, and the greed showed up with a bulldozer. 4 kilometers of beach, 1 road in and out, and they stacked 5-story developments on it until the traffic alone eats half an hour to cross town. Then the sea turned on it. 2025 brought record sargassum, and because Tulum's beach is a protected zone, they legally can't bring in heavy machines to clear it, so it just sits and rots. Then the government handed the coastline to a military-run park called Jaguar, and started charging you $22 to walk onto beaches that were free your whole life. Rooms hit $450 a night for New York prices and worse plumbing. And the result? Coastal occupancy fell to around 30% this year, the town center as low as 15%, and roughly half the shops downtown just closed their doors. The ruins are still real. The cenotes are still magic. The brand collapsed. 2. The one that started all of this, Cancun. And here's a fact that explains the entire town. Cancun was not a place people found. In 1970, the Mexican government fed data into a computer looking for the perfect spot to manufacture a beach resort, and the printout came back pointing at a sandbar next to an empty fishing village. So they built it. That's the DNA. A tourist bubble designed by a committee, and today it carries a third of Mexico's whole tourism economy on one strip of sand. The problem is that people got tired of it. Arrivals dropped about 6.5% in the first half of 2025, and it started showing up on those most disappointing destination lists. The scams got normalized, padded bills, fake tax-free shops, beach clubs overcharging by design. The reef it was built next to is dying. It pulled 16,000 tons of sargassum off its beaches in 2025 against 3,000 the year before. Even the airport turned into a chore, with immigration system meltdowns leaving people stuck in hours-long lines, and some hotels quietly handing out refunds to travelers who got turned around before they ever reached the beach. And I'll be straight with you, because you'll hear the opposite. The hotel zone is statistically safer than a lot of American cities. The thing getting mugged in Cancun is your wallet and your expectations, not you. 3. Playa del Carmen, and specifically its spine, Quinta Avenida, 5th Avenue. This was a fishing village once too. Now it's 40 blocks of pedestrian street that stopped being a town and became an open-air shopping mall. The same 3 souvenir shops, the same guy trying to pull you into the same restaurant, on a loop, for a mile. The beach gets the same sargassum as its neighbors, 1,000-ton landings washing up out of season now. And there's a low hum of that same Quintana Roo security wobble in the background. Look, Playa's fine for what it is. But what it is a place that sells you the idea of a laid-back Caribbean town while actually being an outdoor mall with a beach attached. The real Playa, the one people flew here chasing, is a couple streets back from the Strip, if it's anywhere at all. 4. Akumal, which is a beautiful example of loving something to death. The name means place of the turtles, and that's the whole pitch. You come here to swim with wild sea turtles in a shallow bay. 2 problems. 1 is geography. Akumal faces the open ocean, which makes it one of the worst sargassum-hit beaches on the entire coast. The seaweed finds it first and hardest. 2 is success. So many people wanted the turtle photo that the turtles were getting harassed right off their own seagrass. So now the thing you came for is a paid, permitted, life vest on, stay in the roped lane, guided queue with a time slot, which is probably the right call for the turtles. It just means you pay more, wait longer, and see a smaller, more managed sliver of the exact thing that made the place special. The postcard is a wild turtle. The shoreline is a waiting line. 5. Cozumel, the cruise capital of the Americas, and I mean that literally. In one 7-day stretch this past high season, 25 ships dumped 97,000 passengers onto an island that size. From 9 in the morning to 5 at night, the main town is a moving belt of people buying the same t-shirt and the same shot of tequila before the horn blows, and they all get sucked back onto the ship. If that's your Cozumel, it's worthless. It's a theme park version of an island. But here's the honest turn. And it's the whole reason I like this place. At 5 o'clock, the ships leave and the real island comes back. The dive sites on the Palancar Reef are world class. The seafood's incredible. The quiet east side is empty and wild. Cozumel isn't a dead destination. It's a great one, wearing a terrible costume for 8 hours a day. Just don't visit it on a cruise day and think you've seen it. 6. Isla Mujeres. 5 miles of island, a short boat ride off Cancun. And on a big day, it takes on tens of thousands of day trippers. Playa Norte genuinely is one of the prettiest beaches in Mexico, which is exactly the problem, because the loungers and the hotels have crept across it until getting a spot on the public beach can mean buying your way onto it. The whole island got turned into a stop on a catamaran booze cruise circuit. You get 90 minutes, a photo, and a plastic cup, and you're gone. And here's what the old-timers will tell you. This used to be the definition of a sleepy, safe island, and now even Isla gets the occasional shooting that makes the news. It's not ruined. But the version most people experience, the conveyor belt day trip, is a shadow of the island that's actually there when the catamarans go home. 7. Mahahual, down on the Costa Maya, and this one's almost pure illusion. Mahahual is a village that essentially only exists when a cruise ship is docked. Ship in port, the boardwalk is packed, every bar's open, the vendors are out. Ship gone, it deflates like a balloon, a sleepy strip with very little to it. It was built to be a faucet. Turn the cruise line on, turn it off. Just to give you a sense of the scale of the dependence, Mahahual and Cozumel together pulled in 3.6 million cruise passengers in the first 6 months of 2025 alone, more than half the national total, and almost none of those people stay the night or leave real money behind. It got hammered by the same record sargassum as the rest of the coast, and it's the town in that viral meme going around. The one where the joke is that not even the sea knows what happened to Mahahual and Tulum. When a place is engineered to be a 6-hour photo stop, worthless is almost the design spec. There was never much of a there for you to keep. 8, and this is the one that should break your heart a little, Acapulco. I need you to understand what this was. Before Cancun even existed, Acapulco was the glamour capital of the Western Hemisphere. Elvis, Sinatra, Hollywood royalty, John and Jackie Kennedy honeymooned here. This was the place. And then 2 things killed it. First, organized crime moved in and turned it into one of the most violent cities in the country. Around 70 homicides per 100,000 people. More than 500 killings in a single recent year. And then, in October 2023, Hurricane Otis. Otis went from a tropical storm to a Category 5 monster in 12 hours. Nobody had time to run, and it flattened 80% of the city's hotels in a single night. Acapulco's share of its own state's tourism revenue fell from 65% before the storm to 23% after. They're rebuilding, and the bay is still beautiful. But the Golden Age Acapulco, the one in the old photos, that place is gone, and it isn't coming back the way it was. 9. Ixtapa and Zihuatanejo. And here's where I get to push back on the map for you. Ixtapa was another one of these government-planned resorts, a 1970s twin to Cancun, and time has just quietly passed it by. The Ixtapa Marina and boardwalk that used to be the crown jewel now sit mostly deserted. Hotels are sliding into disrepair because the tourists are thinning out, and a big reason they're thinning out is that the entire state of Guerrero wears a blanket level 4 do not travel flag from the U.S. government. The same tier they use for active war zones. Now here's the honest part. Somebody who's actually been will tell you the tourist zone here is statistically one of the safer spots in the whole country, on the order of 270 incidents per 100,000. And Playa La Ropa is still one of the best beaches in Mexico. So is Ixtapa worthless? Faded, yes. But mostly it's being economically strangled by a warning label that treats a quiet beach town like a combat zone. And that's a different, sadder kind of worthless. A place killed by its reputation more than by its reality. 10. Mazatlan, the pearl of the Pacific, and its problem is the one you can't fix with a beach cleanup. Mazatlan sits in Sinaloa, and since 2024, the Sinaloa cartel has been fighting a civil war with itself. Two factions, after a leadership vacuum, tearing the state apart. Roughly 2,000 people killed and 800 more. Missing in about a year. Tourism's down around 30%, and if you walk the beachfront, you'll see the tell. Dozens of half-built condo towers standing frozen because the investors got spooked and pulled out mid-project. Now, the historic center is genuinely charming. The Malecon is one of the best in the country, and the violence is overwhelmingly cartel on cartel, not aimed at visitors. But here's the honest reality of a place like this. Even if you're statistically fine, you're vacationing under a shadow, in a town where flights get grounded and roads get blocked when things flare up. That uncertainty is its own kind of worthless. You can't really relax on a beach while you're checking the news. 11. Puerto Vallarta. And this one broke in a completely different way. Vallarta didn't get hollowed out by crime or a storm. It got loved to death by money. This is one of the clearest gentrification stories in Mexico. Rents in the city are estimated to have jumped 40 to 60% in 3 years. Whole neighborhoods flipped into short-term rentals and foreign-owned condos, and the locals who gave the town its character got pushed up into the hills to make room. It lost half its blue flag beaches, from 8 down to 4, to tourism-driven pollution. And in February 2026, when cartel violence flared across western Mexico, Vallarta briefly became a shelter-in-place zone, with grounded flights and blocked roads. It's still a beautiful, walkable, warm-hearted town. But you're increasingly paying to visit a place that's busy pricing out the exact people who made it worth visiting. And that's a town slowly turning into a stage set of itself. 12. Manzanillo, in Colima. And this is a case of the brochure lying about what a place even is. You'll see Manzanillo sold as a resort town. It's got the famous Las Hadas resort, the beach they used in the old movie 10. But that's a thin coat of paint. Manzanillo is really Mexico's busiest commercial container port, and it sits in Colima, which per capita was the single most violent state in the entire country, roughly 89 homicides per 100,000. Manzanillo itself ranks among the 3 most violent municipalities in all of Mexico, up around 140 per 100,000. The U.S. government restricts even its own employees to the port and the immediate tourist strip. The beach is real, the sunsets are real, but the setting is a working industrial port in a state at war with itself. And that is not the getaway the photo is selling. 13. Los Cabos, Cabo San Lucas, and this one isn't broken at all. It's just quietly robbing you and doing it with a smile. Cabo is now, flat out, the most expensive destination in Mexico. Average rates on the luxury corridor hit around $596 a night in late 2025. That's roughly 5 times Mexico City and double Cancun. You're paying Hawaii prices, and this happened fast. The average room ran about $180 a night back in 2015, and arrivals have more than tripled since then, from a little over $1 million a year to north of $4 million, which is exactly how a nice beach town becomes a place regular people can't afford anymore. And here's the geography the brochure will never show you. Cabo is a desert. It gets about 14 rainy days a year. There's no natural water to run all those infinity pools and green golf courses, so the resorts run their own desalination plants, literally manufacturing fresh water out of the sea to keep the tropical illusion alive, while some local neighborhoods a few miles inland get piped water about once a week and buy the rest off a truck. Then, on top of your already insane room rate, they stack a $28 arrival fee, 16% sales tax, an environmental tax, and a timeshare hustler on you the second you clear the airport doors. You can have a wonderful time in Cabo. You'll just pay for the privilege about 4 times over, in a desert pretending to be a paradise. 14. Puerto Penasco, Rocky Point, Arizona's beach. It's a 4-hour drive from the border, and during the boom, they overbuilt it with condo towers aimed straight at the Phoenix and Tucson crowd who could just drive down for the weekend. And that's the whole catch, right there. The drive. Rocky Point sits in Sonora, which carries a Level 3 reconsider travel warning, and the highways feeding into it have seen shootouts and roadblocks between cartels and the security forces chasing them. This is the pure wrong place, wrong time risk. Nobody's targeting a family from Tucson, but a family from Tucson can absolutely end up stopped at a roadblock in the middle of something that has nothing to do with them. The sand itself is perfectly nice. It's the road to it that turns a cheap beach weekend into a roll of the dice. And a beach you have to gamble to reach loses a lot of its value. And 15, the one I told you to wait for, Holbox. This is a small, car-free island up on the north edge of the Yucatan. And here's why it's the most important name on this whole list. Holbox is where everyone ran when Tulum got ruined. It was the undiscovered one, the antidote, the real thing. And it is now, right now, on the exact same track that killed Tulum. There's a short-term rental and boutique hotel boom the island's tiny infrastructure was never built to carry. There's no real sewage system for the crowds that show up. Sargassum is starting to reach the North Shore. Prices are climbing. You can watch it happen in real time. The moment a genuine, quiet, real place gets found, the same machine, the developers, the marketing, the influencer geotag, shows up and starts turning it into the very thing everybody was fleeing. Holbox isn't worthless yet, but you're watching it become worthless on schedule, and that is the point of every single name on this list. So here's the part that actually matters, the part I really want you to walk away with. Why does this keep happening? Why does the honest version of these places, it's rotting, it's overpriced, it's never make it into the ad? Because there's no money in it. There is no revenue in telling you a place is done. There is a fortune in selling you the postcard one more season. Follow the money because it's not hidden. It's just quiet. The state tourism boards keep buying the same turquoise photo because their whole job is to fill hotel rooms, not to tell you the beach smells like sulfur this week. The all-inclusive chains have perfected a machine where they fly you in, wall you off behind a gate, feed you inside the compound, and make sure the only Mexico you ever see is the manicured strip they own, while the town outside the wall gets priced out of its own water. The influencer economy runs on comped nights and free excursions, and nobody with a free suite is posting the sargassum. The developers put up the tower and the desalination plant and book the profit, and the town's aquifer and its sewer system and its traffic are somebody else's problem later. And the cruise lines? They rent an entire village for 6 hours, sell you the t-shirt at the ship's markup, and leave the town almost nothing. None of that is a conspiracy. There's no villain in a chair somewhere deciding to ruin Mexico. It's just incentives. 1,000 small, rational, self-interested decisions that all happen to point the same direction, which is flatten the real place, print the postcard, sell it until it stops selling, then move the marketing budget one town over to the next undiscovered beach. That's why Tulum happened. That's why Holbox is happening right now. The machine doesn't hate these places. It just has no reason to keep them real because real doesn't come with a marketing budget, and a cliche is so much easier to sell than a place. And here's where I land on all of it, because I don't want this to sound like I hate travel. I love it. It's my whole life. But there's a difference between seeing a place and understanding one. And this list is that entire difference. Anybody can see a beach. You fly in, you get the photo, you get the swim-up bar, you leave, and technically, you've been there. But you didn't understand a single thing about where you stood. You didn't know the beach was rotting because it's a protected zone they can't legally clear. You didn't know your pool was full because a machine 3 miles away was turning seawater into fresh water, while a family down the road waited on a truck. You didn't know the town was quiet because a warning label strangled it, or loud because a ship happened to be in port. Understanding a place is knowing why it's the way it is. The desert under the resort, the reef under the postcard, the history and the money and the water that quietly decided everything long before you booked the flight. And once you can read a coastline like that, something shifts. You stop being a person a place just happens to, and you start being a person who actually sees it. That's worth more than any photo you'll ever take. A backdrop you consume. A place you understand. And understanding, unlike the postcard, doesn't rot. So here's what I want you to actually take away from this. The concrete stuff, so you don't waste a trip. 1. If you're set on the Mexican Caribbean, go in the Clearwater window, roughly December through March. That's when the sargassum mostly backs off. And check the live sargassum map the morning you want a beach day, because on that coast conditions can flip in 48 hours. Don't trust an Instagram photo from last April. 2. Refuse the paywall version. When a place tries to rope you into a minimum spend beach club or a $22 gate, there is almost always a free public beach access point nearby, because in Mexico, the beaches legally belong to the nation. Find it. Ask a local, not a hotel front desk. 3. Go one town over from the famous name and get there before the machine does. The magic that made Tulum famous is sitting in the smaller places that haven't been found yet, and the second they start to trend, the clock starts ticking. Being early is the whole game. 4. Spend your money where it stays local. The family-run taqueria. 2 streets off the strip, not the marina chain. Your dollars either prop up the machine or they prop up the town, and you get to choose which one. And 5, the big one. Read a place before you book it. Ask what it actually is. Is it a desert pretending to be a jungle? A cruise faucet that's empty by dinner? A real town being priced into a stage set? A quiet beach wearing a scary label it doesn't deserve? Once you can answer that, you'll never waste a week on a postcard again, and you'll walk onto a beach seeing it for what it really is, which is a better trip than any brochure ever sold you. Now, I actually want to hear from you on this one because you've got stories I don't. Tell me in the comments which Mexican place surprised you, good or bad. Where did the postcard flat out lie to you when you got there? And especially, what did a local tell you? The taxi driver, the lady at the taqueria, the guy renting the umbrellas. That completely changed how you saw the place. Those are the replies I actually read, every one of them, because the people who've stood on that sand know things no tourism board will ever put in an ad. That's the good stuff. That's why I do this. And if you want the next one, subscribe, because I'm about to flip this whole thing on its head. Next time, I want to show you the resort towns Mexico built the exact same way, off a government spreadsheet from nothing, and the handful that actually worked, that became real places people genuinely love, against all odds. Same machine, opposite ending. There's one in particular nobody expects to see on that list, and when you hear why it worked, you're going to understand this entire coast a little differently. Until then, do me one favor. Next time a place looks too perfect in the photo, ask yourself who paid for that photo. The answer is usually the whole story. See you on the next one.